I'm delighted to welcome to the show this afternoon Mr. Nokyo Stanilav. Welcome, Nokyo.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for this invitation to be part of this lovely show.
So you're not my average guest, and that's because most of my guests are natural healthcare therapists or people who have inspirational stories where they've transformed their lives in one shape or another through looking after their health and taking personal responsibility. You're slightly different. You have gone through the transformational bit, but you're actually a surgeon, aren't you?
I am indeed. I'm a cancer surgeon. I started diving into the field of surgery a few years back. In 2010 is when I became a general surgeon. Shortly after that, I had a bit of an interest in colorectal and hepatobiliary surgery. But my current specialty is actually Onco Plastic surgery, and I'm an Onco Plastic and reconstructive surgeon in UCLH Hospital here in London, and I manage breast cancer patients and have been doing that for the last 6 years.
Okay, I'm familiar with the term oncoplastic because I've had it done, but for the benefit of the listeners, please explain what you mean by oncoplastic.
So oncoplastic is a kind of a new trend in managing breast cancer. It's when we combine the best outcomes aesthetically and we have no compromise towards the oncological treatment. So you still get the top-notch treatment oncologically wise, meaning we'll deal with the cancer as always aggressively and so forth. But the aesthetic side is very much on the agenda as well, and we would offer reconstructive options to our patients, oncoplastic approaches to breast conservation surgery, and we'll get the best outcome for our patients, which makes a huge difference.
So I'm presuming then that means that you would, or a patient would need to have less surgical intervention when you do things all at the same time, rather than keep going back and back and back for tweaking with this bit, tweaking with that bit aesthetically.
Well, we try to get it right the first time, which on most occasions we do, but it is a journey. Particularly when it comes to reconstructive surgery, we always explain to our patients that actually down the line, as your body ages, and depending on the type of reconstruction you have, the reconstruction will not age, particularly if there is radiotherapy involved. So down the line, 5, 10, 15 years, you may need a little bit of tweaking, but those are minor procedures. And it's nothing compared to the old ways of treating breast cancer, where you would conserve a breast, but the aesthetic outcome of that operation would leave you in a state where you would try to be very particular when it comes to a bathing suit or going to the beach. And so, whereas now, you can't really tell our ladies have had surgery.
That's amazing. That's really good. I had a Tram Flap reconstruction in 2009, and
Okay.
I had a very, very good surgeon, Geoffrey Birch, in John Radcliffe in Oxford.
Yes,
And
I have heard of him.
yeah, he's a wonderful, I think it's Geoffrey Birch, anyway, G. Birch. And in fact, I wrote a book, published a book some years ago, which is, I think, still floating around on Amazon somewhere, because there was no instruction, no guidance, no support, no nothing about what a Tram Flap procedure entailed, which basically, for the benefit of the listeners, is where the stomach, muscle tissue, skin, etc., is taken from the stomach, abdomen, and then a new breast is formed. And
Yes,
it
indeed.
was go on.
Indeed, this is the procedure where we take one of the abdominal, the long abdominal muscle, and we revert it in a way to form a breast and shape it. It is a procedure, however, now not that much popular. Obviously, treating breast cancer has come a long way. And with the availability of implants and obviously the acellular dermal matrix. This is a biomesh for the listeners, just to explain an ADM. It's where you have different types of skin which are denatured, chemically treated to remove any foreign antibodies and cells, and is just literally the dermal matrix. Used those two things in combination give phenomenal aesthetic outcome, and have far less complications than a tram flap, and potentially in the long run they're more durable.
Yeah, which is
So it has
fantastic.
come a long way, reconstruction.
Brilliant. I had the nipple reconstruction as well from my own skin and tissue, and to this day it still looks perfect. I had it re-tattooed recently, a couple of years ago, and
So was it
it's
a
still
3D tattoo?
it was a no, it's well, the actual nipple itself, it just looks like real, you know. You really, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know it was my, you know, it was a reconstruction. But
Yeah,
the tattoo
no, I'm
was
sure.
very well done. I don't think I'd class it as 3D, no, but it was very well done. So it's amazing, isn't it, what can be done these days? Very,
It is
very
amazing. It is
impressive.
amazing.
So I take my hat off to you, sir, for what you do. It's brilliant, because it's bad enough going through the condition, never mind having the physical you know, shenanigans that go with it, and a lot of people are affected mentally as a result of it. So so good for you, well done.
Thank you. And
Okay.
that is probably one of the main reasons I went, I'm going actually through the coaching certification process for this transformational program I came out of. I wanted to share my story for, but basically the results are so astounding, and it's so balanced and natural. It deals with some of the issues I have a problem with personally, and actually not personally, but my colleagues as well. And when we offer reconstructions, we select our patients. So if a patient is a smoker, if their BMI is high, if there's type 2 diabetes, all these things tend to be in the way of a reconstruction and can increase exponentially the risk of failure of the reconstruction. And the health program I got into for different reasons, which I'll share in a moment, actually coming out of the program, I learned that a large portion of the people who were going through the program with me went in particularly for those reasons, and they became post-diabetic, meaning they've either stopped their medication or reduced it to a significant lower dose. They've stopped smoking, and their BMI came back to a normal. I know for certain mine did, because I started with a BMI of 28.5, and I ended up with a BMI of 24 at the end of the 90-day period.
So tell us what this 90-day transformational program entails then. I'm very interested to hear, particularly as you would be coming at it from a perspective of not eating a healthy diet because you're on the go all the time. Your job is very intensive, high pressured. You know, there's lots riding on every time you go into an operating theatre. For the person on the table and everybody around you. So I guess your eating habits weren't that terribly healthy. Eating on the hoof, were you?
No, they weren't, and it's not a big secret that the lifestyle of a surgeon or any trainee doctor, and then later on a registrar or consultant, can be somewhat all over the place. Well, I personally struggled with weight loss or weight gain for a number of reasons, and my lifestyle had a lot to do with that. I have tried diets, and these diets worked for a short period of time, but I ended up in a situation where the weight was again coming back, and until recently I kind of delved into personal growth and stumbled upon a program called Wildfit. And this program offered something which no other program offered, and this was to fix your dysfunctional relationship with food, to reset the way you look at food. And realizing that is my main issue, I really felt that this resonates with me. So I went into this program, and this program is a fantastic a brainchild of a person called Eric Edmeades, who designed this on a couple of philosophies based on behavioral science and nutritional anthropology. And basically, it comes back to natural ways of feeding, of eating. And he likes to explain it in a very nice way with a article he read in a magazine while he was flying, one of those air magazines, about the captive diet of an elephant and the wild diet of an elephant. Back in the days where elephants were a sensation in the zoos, people quickly figured out that if they get an elephant in their zoo, they're going to start making money. But unfortunately, for some reason, the elephants could not survive as long as they would in the wild as they would in captivity. So looking into it, obviously it's a massive financial gain to have such an animal. They didn't want to lose this for a short period. If they can extend the period they're earning profits, that would be great. So what they figured out is that the diet, the wild diet of the elephant, is significantly different from the captive diet when we humans fed them. So he's very keen on explaining the fact that we use the word diet wrongly, because we have the Atkinson diet, we have the keto diet, the paleo diet, all sorts of different forms of eating. But what we tend to forget, that diet is actually what we should be eating ourselves normally, what we would have eaten back in the days. So based on that principle, he takes you on this exciting journey of 12 weeks, where you start by resetting your relationship with food. We talk about different aspects of decision making and so on and so forth. I don't want to reveal too much of the program, because actually part of the success is not knowing too much about it. You make incremental changes over a longer period of time, which tend to add up and have a massive accumulated effect towards the end of the program. And coming out of it, my personal success was I lost 21 kilograms at the end of the 12 week. We are now almost 8 weeks following that program. Now my weight loss is actually, my weight release has come to 25 kilograms. Another major change for me, a major win, is I had a significant hip problem on my left hip joint due to wear and tear. And back in the days, I used to be quite active sports person. And I attribute this to trauma and wear and tear. Whereas now coming out of the program, it possibly was linked to chronic inflammation, because not only the pain is completely gone, a pain for which one of my colleagues offered and recommended a hip replacement, which I kindly declined and seek for alternative ways of dealing with this. And the range of motion has come back to a state that I now regularly in the morning do a 7.5 K run, just as a morning start of the day, and have no pain. There are a number of other tremendous benefits coming out of this program. The beautiful sleep you get, the amounts of bursting energy throughout the day, the mental clarity, your vision improves, your emotional stability improves. And these changes you do, psychological changes with your relationship with food, you actually find yourself applying the similar principle in different aspects of your life. And you get so much more out of this program than you go into it. It is truly fantastic, to the point where I was so amazed. I signed up with Eric's team, with the Wildfit team, and I'm now in the process of becoming a certified coach, because I want to offer this to my patients. I want to be by them as a Wildfit coach, and I want to take them through this journey, and they can come out a much healthier person on the other side. I know
which is
because I did.
wonderful. Yeah, absolutely. And it's most unusual, as I say, for a surgeon, particularly in oncology, to be espousing the merits of healthy eating and not fad diets and that kind of stuff. When I went through my, I've had 4 different versions of cancer over the years, and the key thing for me is the importance of sugar, which is where we started on Facebook, our exchange
Yes.
of messages. So tell us about sugar, for the benefit of the listeners. What's so dangerous about sugar?
Well, there is plenty of evidence, Elaine, in one of my latest blog posts, the one that caught your attention, the sweet killer, is particularly focused on the evidence out there linked to the top 3 problems currently health-wise, starting with cancer. Now we know, and there's plenty of evidence and published in peer-reviewed journals, scientific evidence, which shows the risk, the direct link and the indirect link by obesity for number of cancers, including breast cancer in that respect. It also influences the obesity, as mentioned, and cardiovascular. One of studies that caught my attention, and I don't think I've referred to it in my blog post for the sweet killer, is that there was a study coming out, the Mediterranean diet, and that was aimed particularly towards for cardiovascular disease. And coming out of it, the follow-up for the study showed that actually not only you reduce your risk for cardiovascular disease if you have a healthier diet, but your risk for breast cancer also comes down. Now, another major health issue, the type 2 diabetes, which is considered quite common nowadays, and it's the most common type when you compare all the adults who have diabetes. About 90% of these adults will have the type 2 diabetes. It is a ever increasing health problem in the UK. I mean, one of the data showed that about 3.2 million diagnosed with diabetes, and a further about 850,000 are estimated to be undiagnosed. And the high sugar diet has been linked to an increased incidence of this. Now, before going into the program, I knew I had a clue that sugar might be an issue in my weight control struggle, but I didn't realize the vastness of the problem. And if you start looking at the foods we consume, I'll guarantee you that about 90% of the foods that we eat has a form of sugar in there. Do you know, Elaine, that there are 65 names of sugar that we know of, that the industry cleverly disguises refined sugar into our foods. And they do this for a reason. They do this for a particular reason, and the reason is profit. The food industry has come a long way to secure their profit, but what they're not realizing, or they are realizing, which is worse, and not doing anything about it, is that it has a detrimental effect on the population health, and something has to be done about it. And it's us who have to educate our friends, our family, our patients, and so on, our society, and we need to vote with our money, because the more we buy stuff with sugar, the more people will produce it. The less we do so, the more we ask for the healthy stuff in our grocery store, the more things are going to shift this. And the extent of the problem wasn't visible to me to start with the program. You become aware during the program, because one of the things we do address in it is the sugar consumption. And me being a surgeon dealing with cancer, and now knowing the extent of this problem, I think it's very important to raise the social awareness of this. And we need to battle this problem, and we need to take it on seriously. because it's not only about being a little bit overweight and managing it. Is about the next generation and the generation afterwards, because these things will accumulate genetically and will pass on this to our offspring, and they'll pass it on to their offspring. And we don't want this accumulative effect, and we don't want to be looking at ways of managing diseases. We want to be looking at ways of actually preventing them coming about in the first place.
Absolutely, and also even when you have these conditions, many of them are reversible. I've mentored lots and lots of people. You know, we've reversed cancers, we've reversed type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease. I used to run cardiovascular health clinics, and many people that were recommended to go onto medication, or in fact were on medication. I've coached them to reverse, but it's about taking their own self-care. And I love the quote that my design team did a quote thing. I think I tagged you in it. You said something about, we don't have a healthcare problem, we have a self-care catastrophe.
Yes, well, it's actually, I can't really fully take credit for that quote, to be fair. It's a paraphrased quote of Eric. Eric says, we don't have a healthcare crisis, we have a self-care crisis. Well, in my view, it's actually a catastrophe. The scope of the crisis is too big. So I've kind of paraphrased it, so I can't take full credit for that quote. But yeah, you are right. These conditions, particularly the type 2 diabetes, can be reversed. People coming out of the program have now been called post-diabetic, a term which a couple of years ago or more than that was not in the literature, and now is coming out. We have more and more success stories in reversing cardiovascular problems, even cancers. Now, cancer is a complex issue, and I wish it was that easy. I wish it was that easy. Take away sugar and cancer goes away. The reality of it is a little bit more complex than that. But I don't want to underplay this. The sugar has major impact. So it is important we start from somewhere. The sugar, there are many other chemicals in our foods that shouldn't be there. There are companies which you don't know their name, and they don't want you to know their name, but they specialize in flavoring. So you go into that company and there's like a stack of jars, and they will open up a jar and they'll ask you, do you want to smell McDonald's? Do you want to smell a steak? And they can trick your body with chemical compounds into thinking that non-functional foods are actually good for you. So you end up eating them. Not only eating them, you get addicted to them. So, I mean, all of these things contribute to the current health crisis or current health catastrophe.
Exactly. Very, very clever marketing, isn't it? Genius marketing minds have done this. And you mentioned behavior and nutritional anthropology and behavioral science, which are two areas that I'm also qualified in. And it never ceases to amaze me how people don't recognize the link, but when it's pointed out to them, it's bleeding obvious. How we behave affects our health. It affects every aspect of our life, but it affects our health. So if we're living in fear, we're feeding ourselves with sugar, we're comfort eating, then of course we're going to put on weight, we're not going to be doing the exercise, our mood is going to be low, our whole hormones are going to be all over the shop, and with the inflammation that's being created in our body, and more stress, more inflammation, more eating sugar, and so on and so forth. But so it's no wonder we have this kind of crisis. Diabetes yes. Years ago used to be called sugar diabetes. When I was little, I'm in my 60s now, but when I was little, I remember an uncle being diagnosed, and everybody was whispering, oh my God, Uncle Eric's got sugar diabetes. No, Uncle Reg's got sugar diabetes. Yeah. And it was a terrible thing. It's like he was going to die tomorrow, you know. And yeah. We've come an awful long way, but society accept the norms now of everything that we see in the social media, in the news, etc., and we can be guided and led by the nose to think that this thing is healthy and that thing is healthy, when it's far from the truth. We have to take care, we have to look at self-care, but a lot of people don't know where to start. So where would you suggest that listeners start on their self-care journey?
Well, on this healthcare journey, they can start by becoming a little bit more aware of the way the marketing, the food manufacturing marketing is using emotions, to control their decision making. And then, I mean, anyone can start researching and look up healthy stuff. Now, I would suggest to anyone really interested in going to look up the actual site for getwildfit.com, or they can do it through my coaching site, the lifestylesurgery.com. But it is a process. It is a process where you need to gradually become aware. Obviously, I can't give away all the secrets of the program, but you need to become gradually aware of your decision-making process, and then you need to perform what essentially is a cleansing procedure, where you do incremental changes and you take away things from your diet which are harmful, and you rely on the natural ability of the body to self-regulate. And what happens as a result is a massive weight release. Particularly for me, it was massive. An energy increase, happiness. It is not a program that sells happiness, but 95% of people who have completed the program, I mean, of 100% people signed in, you have a success rate of 95. It is an easy program. The other thing which is quite enticing is actually there is no physical exercise as part of this program. It is based on nutrition only, and in a natural way. There are no supplements which are involved in this program. And another thing which grabbed my attention is we actually encourage you not to go hungry. We will ask you week 1, we will ask you, please do not go hungry. It is very important, because it's all about the messages you send to your body. It's all about the foods you eat, in what order you eat, and how you eat them, to send the proper messages to your body to say it is okay. You can release, because what does the body do? The body has an insurance policy, and the insurance policy is these layers of fat, until the body feels safe to release that insurance policy, is just going to hold on to it. And then multiple factors. It is the food, it is the sugar, it is the stress we live in. So dealing with those by yourself or dealing them in a structured program is probably the difference between you having a New Year's resolution and saying, do you know what, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be a fitter person. And that's okay. It's good for a week, for 2, for 3 weeks, until your willpower runs out. Now, because this is based on behavioral psychology, there is 0 willpower required in this program. It changes the way you think. So willpower is not required, which is amazing. I thought, I mean, don't get me wrong. When I was going through the masterclass for this program, I thought to myself, you know, when a sales pitch is too good to be true, you say, yeah, okay. I personally said to myself, if half those things come true out of the program, then that'd be great. Well, let me tell you, not the half, all of them, and so much more, because all the benefits, we can't fit them in about an hour just to explain how much your life is going to change and how much healthier you're gonna feel. And the other thing is not about a temporary fix. You fix your weight for a couple of months and then you try to hold on to that change. No, it is actually a lifestyle permanent adjustment. And I can testify, because now 2 months after that program, I'm continuing to reap benefits, and more weight is released. I feel more in control. I've started exercising because of the energy you get. You can't really not exercise. It is your natural way of living. Our bodies, we're designed to move around. So back in the days, we would normally, we're hunters and gatherers. We would have gone out to gather our food, to hunt for our meat. So you would normally do between 10 and 15,000 steps a day. And with the sedentary lifestyle we have, going into our car, going into the tube, sitting in front of a desk, if you look at your smartphone, probably you struggle to make, what, 4,000-5,000 steps a day. And when you're living this sedentary lifestyle over a period of time, it is going to accumulate, and these changes are going to impact your health style. So what people can do is start becoming aware of the tricks health the industry is employing to influence the choice making and how we buy our foods.
And as you say, it's very important that to not go hungry. When I was born with a kidney disease, and I didn't know about it until I was about 21, something like that. I was a competitive swimmer, and I was training twice a day in a chlorinated pool, and I kept on getting projectile vomiting or waterwork infections, and they said, oh, it's a chlorine, it's this, it's that. And anyway, it turned out to be this condition called medullary sponge kidneys. When I was put on antibiotics by specialists that I used to see in Harley Street at the time, and so I was under good care, so I thought. Anyway, 23 years later, I was introduced to a nutritionist and a chiropractor, and between them they guided me, and I took myself off of the antibiotics I've been on all those years, and learned how to eat properly. And eating right for my type is one of the things that I did. I'm a blood type O, no, I'm not. I'm a blood type A, which is more prone to gut issues, and also more leaning towards vegetarian diet. So I changed all of that, and took myself off the antibiotics and other medication that I'd been on all this time, and then carried on. Everything was wonderful, and then I sort of fell off the wagon and started to eat, you know, the same as everybody else was eating. And then some years later, I got my first cancer. So what I've learned through all of this, and I've studied as a nutritionist in the last 5-6 years, whatever it was, and what I've picked up from it is, as you say, going hungry is one of the worst things you can do, because that's when you start to nibble all the things you shouldn't be doing.
Yes.
And then without realizing that everything is stacked full of sugar, you know, even a loaf of bread has sugar in it, never mind all the things that say it's got sugar in it. So not going hungry. So over the period, the last 5 years in particular, I eat the healthiest way possible, and people say to me, oh, isn't that a chore? No, it's not. It's a way of life. And once you get to know the way of life that suits you, then you're, you know, a role model for other people. And it's not difficult, is it? It's really quite simple once you've got into what your new kind of normal is.
Yeah, and the thing that did it for me particularly is, once you feel this healthy, there is no going back, because nothing, and I mean nothing, tastes as good as healthy feels. So once you understand that, once you have particularly, I mean, that what made me realize that these changes are going to be permanent. There is no going back, because you know what that burger is going to do to you. You know what eating bread does to you. You know what other foods, what is the impact, how you're going to wake up in the morning, your mental clarity, your decision-making process, your emotional stability, and all of that is impacted by our food. We are, and literally, we are what we eat. So it is quite important to keep that in mind. So, because when we treat ourselves because we've been good, or because it's been a bad day, so I'm going to treat myself with that burger, I'm going to treat myself with that ice cream, or I'm going to treat myself with that humongous Toblerone bar, or you catch my drift.
Yes.
We need to think about, that's great, but how are you treating? Are you treating yourself good, or are you treating yourself badly? And are you treating emotions? Are you eating for emotions, or are you eating for nutrition? Because nutrition is what you need. And if your nutrition is not optimal, then you lose control. You're going to lose control because energy is going to be required to process that food, to break it down, and to get rid of all the bad things in that food. And that energy is going to come from your reparative processes, from running other systems, let's say your immune system, and so on and so forth. And that impact is the one that you don't really realize until it's a little bit late. When you sit in an office much like mine, and myself or a colleague of mine gives you bad news, as we call it in the business. So these lifestyle changes are important to be made ASAP. Where there is usually a question when people say, when is a good time to plant a tree? Well, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago.
Yes.
When is the second best time to plant a tree? Well, it's now. So if you haven't done it, and I know I didn't do it for a long period of time, even though I'm in this industry and I'm in on the giving end, I look after patients, so I should have been looking after myself a bit more, which is ironic. But I implemented these changes, and if you are really determined, there are ways. And this particular program is so revolutionary. It's like what Zumba did to the fitness industry. I think Eric is pretty much doing the same to the dieting industry. It is out there. It's something else. It is not a diet. It is a health program. It is a lifestyle adjustment. It is something for long-term changes.
It sounds fantastic. I must have a look at his website. So that's getwildfit.com, and
Yes.
your website is thelifestylesurgery.com.
Correct.
Cool. Okay.
Sugary and you can find the website, and I have a page in Facebook as well, which is again the same thing, the Lifestyle Surgery.
Great. Sugary drinks, Nokyo. What's your view on sugary drinks? Soda pop, Coke, Fanta, all these sorts of drinks. What's your view on those?
Well, that is a great question, and there's plenty of evidence that came out with that particular with this question, which was put into what about the sugary drinks? So sugary drink consumption, it is linked to risk of cancer. And there is a study which is called the NutriNet Sant Perspective Cohort Study. It was published in July 2019. It's from a French team. And it basically tells you that the consumption of sugary drinks, it has a significant association with the risk of overall cancers. The consumption of artificially sweetened beverages, it wasn't associated with the risk of cancer in this study, but they're not as, I'm not advocating the use for them either. What is also interesting coming out as results from that study is that the 100% fruit juice was significantly associated with the overall cancer. And that comes again back to the sugar. What you don't want to do is give your body a sugar hit. The sugars coming even from a healthy, from a natural source such as the fruits, if they are concentrated, then your body is not meant to deal with that much sugar at the same time. Eric gives an interesting analogy in this particular case, where the juice coming out of an orange is like a note. What nature has intended for you to have is the symphony. So you should have the whole orange with the fibers, with all the other parts of it, the minerals. Whereas if you just take out the juice, you just concentrating the hit of that particular note, and it's not something your body is designed to deal with. Sugary drinks are also linked to obesity. We know in the UK there is a campaign to reduce sugary drinks intake, particularly by the youth. So they're putting higher taxes on them, they're making them less appealing, and so on and so forth. They're actually talking about removing vending machines and measures along those lines, because what the government is realizing is that these drinks do have an impact on health, overall health. So being with diabetes, with obesity, with people being overweight, and in the long term with cancers. These sugary drinks, they haven't been around for a very long time, and and the same thing goes with other foods which contain sugar. It's a relatively new thing, and if I can share a memory, when I was in my year 5 would have been, or year 4, something like that. I remember in my class we had one kid which was overweight, and nowadays I'm looking at the kids in the classes next to my son, and I can see that there are few kids which look okay, and the majority can probably reduce their sugar intake, if I want to say it in most polite way. If you understand what I mean.
Yes.
It is a major impact, and it's something we as a society have to think about. And is this what we want to leave as legacy? This stressful life, this pursuit of success on the and the price we pay is what? Fast food, processed foods, the foods which we don't really know what's in them anymore, and regular visits to the doctor. So we're gonna work hard, destroy our health, and then save up in the interim, so then we can go and pay someone in the health industry to give our health back. I'm really sorry to say it doesn't really work that way. So we need to address the issue, and we need to address the issue with voting with our money and stop buying these non-functional foods.
It's empty calories, isn't it? So you may, and a lot of
empty
people
calories.
Tend to get confused with the zero Coke. Well, yeah, but look at all the chemicals in it. Look at all the artificial sweeteners in it, etc., etc.
I agree. The common theme in the modern society is that we are overfed, but we're actually malnourished.
Yes.
Because we keep eating non-functional foods which carry empty calories and tons of chemicals and sugar. But what we don't have are the nutritional minimums, what we need to function at an optimal level. Once you make the switch, and the switch comes from inside, you have to make the change on the inside. So you have to want to be healthier. You have to seek those foods out. It is a mindset shift rather than, and that's the other thing which is different, because the mindset going into a diet and a mindset going into this program, they're completely different. Because the diet, what you're looking for is a short-term fix. I want to lose X amounts of pounds or X amounts of kilograms. Whereas here, we're looking at relationship for food. We're looking at optimal performance levels. We're looking at mental clarity, a better sleep, controlling diseases. And it's not only the diabetes. There is a number of success stories with Hashimoto and different types of thyroiditis, which have reduced the need for medication coming out of it. I'm not saying this program is 100% guarantee that it will cure diseases. Don't misinterpret me. It is a way of giving you the tools for the body. And the body is a remarkable thing. It can do major restorations to the injuries we've been doing to it for over a long period of time. I personally, going into the program, one of the exercises is you focus on past experiences. And I realized my sugar problem came from for something which wasn't my own doing in a way. I was year 6, when at the beginning of year 6, after the summer break, most of the school ended up in the infectious diseases unit with a hepatitis A. Because one of the chefs in the canteen didn't realize he came to work contagious with a hepatitis A. Long story short, we ended up in a hospital, and this is my first memory of feeling tremendously hungry. And looking back on it, I remember having those drips of 10% glucose into my veins twice a day, half a pint. For the first time in my life, I would have had that sugar hit. And what sugar does, and I'm sure we all have experienced this, is this rush of energy, and then you crash. But what you end up is being more hungry at the end of it, because the insulin will outrun the glucose, and you end up again hungry in that cycle. And it's a vicious cycle, and it's difficult to break. But I must say, Eric has found a very elegant way of breaking that cycle.
So we dismissed 100% fruit juice as being too sugary. We've dismissed soda pop type drinks. What about juicing? People who juice, you've mentioned about the whole orange rather than just the juice of the orange, for example.
Yes.
And I know with lemons, with my lemons, I freeze those that I don't juice. Every day I have lemons, but I also I freeze them, and then I what do you call, not scrape, oh, what do you call it? Grate. I grate the lemons, frozen. Okay. So I then grate the zest and the pith and everything, and I sprinkle that in soups, on salads, and then I just eat the middle, or I just, you know, squeeze in a warm water. So I have the whole lemon. And that's an easy way for listeners to have the, you know, when you say, you know, eat the rind of a lemon, people think you're bonkers, but that's the way to do it. You just grate it, freeze it, and grate it. So what about juicing? People who
juicing is not ideal. It's not ideal because it's a concentrated form. So I mean, the juices, particularly if you water them down, I know we give that to my children. If you're gonna water down a juice, it makes the sugary content in it lower. And when it's ethically produced organic fruit, and you juice it and you water it down, it's not ideal, but it is better than buying a fruit juice. It is better than the ones that are coming out of the as produced foods, as processed foods out of the store. But if you ask me, I'm probably a bigger advocate for smoothies, because then you get the whole fruit. Then you get the whole fruit, and you not only get the fruit, but you add a little bit of water or a little bit of ice. Water as form of ice. And that's much more the way nature intended it. So you get the whole symphony in a way. So I would say probably smoothies more than juicing.
Yeah, I'm an advocate of vegetable juicing. So kale and spinach and broccoli and all the greens, cucumber, celery, all the carrots. The vegetable juicing is my thing, with a little bit of fruit, say pineapple, in it. And then that way you're getting all the nutrients and minerals and enzymes and everything from the veggies.
You mean smoothing them? You mean putting them in a smoothie?
No, juice. I juice them.
Okay.
So pop through a juicer. You can add, maybe add a banana and turn it into a smoothie. But I'm more, and when I had cancer, it was vegetable juice with a little bit of pineapple was the thing that helped me, plus loads of other strategies, of course, mindset and oxygen and goodness knows what.
Well, just the juice of the I haven't personally tried this, to be honest, juicing vegetables. How do you find the taste? Is it a little bit bitter, or
it's an acquired taste, so that's why you need to add the pineapple is very good. The center in particular of the pineapple, the hard bit that we'd normally throw away, that's particularly good in the juice. It contains bromelain, which is very, very good enzyme for us, and very, very, you know, good for our immune system boosting and so on. And it sweetens slightly the vegetable juice. Veg, you don't have vegetable juice because it tastes nice. You have it because it does you good. That's
Okay.
again, that goes
Well,
back to the mindset.
there might be a workaround this, Elaine, because I tend to have a lot of vegetables. I tend to blend them myself in a form of a smoothie. And the way around sometimes the bitter taste is either a little bit of lemon or pineapple water or coconut water, as you say, a little bit of ginger. But
Yes.
probably my most favorite is a jalapeno pepper. It makes everything quite fiery. And it wakes you up, and goodness me, there is no bitterness after that fire.
Ah, good idea. Never thought of adding that. They're the red peppers, aren't they? Red. You get them in
No, I go for the green
green ones.
bombshell jalapeno.
Okay,
the
cool.
one that once you cut, you need to be very careful afterwards, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, like the 3 happy birthday songs, because you don't want to touch your eyes or any mucosal lining around the nose or any of that area by mistake afterwards. Trust me. But yeah, I have a deep love relationship with spicy food, so I really like them. So the spicier the better.
Right, I shall try that. Thank you. Marvelous. Well, we're coming to the end of the program now. So I asked guests to choose 2 songs, and you've chosen Maroon 5 Sugar, which I think is a very appropriate song. I don't know anything about the song. And the other one is Michael Jackson, Billie Jean. So tell us why you chose those, Noko.
Well, the Maroon 5 song, I think it is one of my favorite songs, and Maroon 5 is a favorite band, and it had a different meaning for me. If you've ever watched the video, if anyone in the audience hasn't watched it, then I urge them to go and watch the video. It is an interesting gesture the band has done, going around different weddings in Los Angeles, and just surprising the groom and bride with a pop-up performance, and just capturing their reaction, and it's an act of generosity which is phenomenal, and that really resonated with me very much. And now going through this program, and Sugar has changed my diet and changed the way I look for many years, and now coming out of this program and not eating sugar, and completely broken my addiction to sugar. It kind of ties up both me wanting to generously help other people with this, and break their sugar addiction and improve their lifestyle. So the whole the clip, the song, it has this meaning to me. And Michael Jackson is the first artist whom I purchased an album in my very young age, and he's the reason why I love music so much. So any song from Michael Jackson is great for me. But Billie Jean is a special one. Again, ties up with memories of me growing up and my baseball team, and good days.
Fantastic. Well, Nokyo Stanilav, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And listeners want to get in contact with you. Your website is thelifestylesurgery.com.
Yes, please do. We offer a free discovery call where we can chat about their health issues and whether this program is suitable for them. It has no strings attached, no commitments. It's just a quick, friendly chat. And we see what we can offer them into this program. So yeah, if anyone is interested, I'll be more than happy and willing to do my best for them to achieve their goals.
Fantastic, thank you. And listeners, both of us can be found on my Facebook group, which is called the Perfect Health Wellness Club. So whatever you're doing, have a fantastic week, and thank you very much, Noko.
Thank you, Elaine. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.